Hello, welcome back. My name is Ari, and today let's have a chit chat about the series I've started and haven't completed yet. So I'm gonna start off this video talking about stats, I guess. So there are 63 book series that I have read at least the first book in, sometimes more, and I am interested in continuing with that series. Now, 63 sounds like a lot, but almost half of them are series where the next book isn't out, and so I can't continue on the series because I'm waiting for the author to publish that book. Is this an exact count? Probably not, because I'm not counting things that I don't expect to come out anytime soon, like The Winds of Winter by George R.R. Martin, or Elantris 2 by Brandon Sanderson. Things that I have no reasonable expectation of coming out anytime soon really aren't on this list. So 63 is a rough number, but unfortunately, out of those 63 series, 32 of them do currently have a book available in them, one or more books available in them that I can read and just haven't gotten around to yet. 13 of those 32 series have only one book that I need to read to either finish the series or catch up with where the author is at this time as far as writing. 10 of them have 2 books, and then 9 of them have 3 or more books. So let's kind of go over the book series that I have on this list that I can read something in. So the 32 book series. Last year in January, I just focused entirely on book series and catching up with book series, trying to finish off book series. I'm probably going to do the same thing again in January. So if you are interested in me reading any of these series and you want individual vlogs about it or just a general sense of anything, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can come back and check out what I'm reading. So let's talk about the series. I have this is in absolutely no particular order. But first I have the Ascari series by Kristen Cicerelli. This one I've been putting off because I hated the second book. I gave the first book 3 or 4 stars, and then the second book I gave 1 star. And I need to finish it off because each book in the series follows a different set of characters, so I probably won't hate the third book as much as I think I will, but should probably finish that off. Next up is the Green Hollow duology from Emily Tesh, and I read the first book and just need to read the second book, and this one I will definitely do in January because it's a novella, so it's 100 pages and it should probably be done pretty quickly. Next up is The Pact by Katie Wismere. She is a booktuber, and this is the second book in her anti-virginity pact series, basically. I think it's called the anti-virginity year, anti-relationship year. That's what it's called. This is young adult contemporary, so not my favorite genre, though I didn't mind the first book. It's just I haven't been pressed to get around to this one. Next up is the Aurora Cycle by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, and I haven't finished this series because I lost any and all respect for Jay Kristoff as a human being with how he has been responding to people calling him out for problematic content in his books. He over-sexualizes young girls in his book, and people said hey, this kind of feels icky. His responses and his comments are more joking instead of taking it seriously. He either ignores it or he makes really bad jokes about it, and that just doesn't seem like a appropriate response to being over-sexualizing children. even if they're fictional children. This doesn't happen in the Aurora Cycle, probably because it's written with a female author, but I don't want to give J. Kristoff any money to read this book, so I want to finish out the series, but I'm going to wait until I can find this book used, and just not like financially support him, and I may just read it on my own and not talk about it on my channel at all. But the only reason I would want to finish this out is just for my own completionist sake, because I did like the first 2 books in the series. I just didn't like the author behind it. Next up is the Tarkin Chronicles by Isle Kess, I think is how you say his name. Kless? I don't know. Yeah, Isle Kless, I think. This is actually a book that I got in a book box, and I really liked it. And so I want to continue on with reading it. And I just need to find the time to do it. Next up is Girls with Sharp Sticks by Suzanne Young. I think in January, I read a different series by Suzanne Young. I can't remember the name of it right now. And I was so disgusted and disappointed by that series that it was very hard for me to continue with the Girls with Sharp Sticks series, even though I knew I liked it. And so I just need to pick up the final book and man up and continue this, because I do like this series. I was just so mad at her about the other books. Next up, we have another problematic author, and that is the Book of the Ancestor series by Mark Lawrence. This series is okay. I don't love it, but I own all of the books in the series, so I do want to finish reading this because I own it. But I probably won't ever pick up anything by Mark Lawrence again after I finish this series. This might be another one that I read off camera and just never really talk to you guys about, just to not support the author. Next up is Raybearer series by Jordan Afueco. I did read the first book on audiobook earlier this year, and I really liked this. This was a really, really good debut novel, and I'm very interested in picking up the next book in the series and reading that. I just haven't had the time. I only read Raybearer like fairly recently. Next up, another book by Katie Wismere, and that's the Marionette series. This book just came out, or the second book in the series came out like last week, so that's the only reason I haven't read this. This is like a vampire fantasy series, and it's really, really fun, and I really, really want to continue with it. It came out last week, so just no chance yet. Next up is The Age of the Seventh Sons by Lanny Forbes, and this is a young adult series that is based off of Mayan culture that I have been I think I've picked up every single book in the series so far off of NetGalley, and it's a really interesting series. And so technically I am caught up with this series, and the third book comes out in February or March, I want to say, but I have a copy of it. I have an arc of it on NetGalley, so technically I can read this because I have access to the book, but I will read it closer to its release day and do my typical monthly arc vlog with this book once it's time to read it. Next up is a book series that I started for a book club, and it was The Bells by Danielle Clayton. This is a duology, and I didn't like love it, but I just kind of want to know where it goes. So let's finish the duology. There's only one other book. Next up is the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson. I will be reading the Cytonic, the third, whatever, the one that just released. I will be reading it this month. This is on my TBR for this month, but at the time of recording this video, I haven't gotten around to it yet, but this one 100% will be in my end of month wrap up. After that is the Carve the Mark series by Veronica Roth, and I know I've read the first book because I own it, but but I don't remember what it's about. So I need to reread it and then read the second book. I think this is a duology, but I can't really tell you anything about it other than I own it. Or I own the first one. After that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. And I read the first book in this series from the Goodreads Choice Awards Fantasy from 2020, and then haven't managed to continue on with the series. I liked this but didn't love it. So the series continuation wasn't like high on my priority list, but a lot of people really, really enjoyed it. So I'll probably try to read the second book at least in January, but I don't know if I'm going to continue or if I'm going to finish the whole series in January. Another book that I just read recently was Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton. I read this, I think I read this month. I think I read Fortuna Sworn earlier this month. Anyway, it was a really good like intro book, but I didn't get a whole lot out of it, and I want to know where this series goes because I think this series can be great, but I just didn't get a whole lot out of the first book. But I haven't had a chance to pick up anything else in the series because I literally just read the first book this month. One of them that I have been meaning to continue for years. Like, I think I read this book in college in like 2014, and I've been wanting to continue the series since then and just haven't, and that is the Mad Adam series by Margaret Atwood. I did end up purchasing the second book in the series from like a thrift books or something like that, so I have it on my shelf to make it more of a priority to read. But I'm very interested to where this series goes. The next one is kind of weird, but last year, I don't remember why, but I was like trying to up my book count. Maybe it was a readathon, and I needed to like complete a bunch of books, and I only had like a day and I needed to read 4 books. And so I was like trying to read graphic novels, and I ended up searching on my library for graphic novels, and this one said it was a graphic novel, but ended up being just like a regular novel. But I still read it in like 3 hours because it was super quick read. And it was the Cursed Superheroes series by Jessica Sorensen, and it was kind of really fun, and I was like, I kind of want to read the rest of this, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. But it's kind of like mindless young adult vampire superhero stuff. Next up is another Bookbox book that I read the first one and want to continue, and that is the Chamera series by Kate Glass. I am going to be honest with you, I can picture the cover in front of my face, but I can't tell you what this book's about, but apparently it was interesting enough that I wanted to continue the series. So that's something I'll probably have to refresh myself on before I get into, but sure, let's read it. Next up is, I don't know where I got this book from, but it's the Broken Man Trilogy from Russell Kirkpatrick. And I know this is high fantasy and it's super complicated, and there's no way I'm going to explain it to you in a few minutes, but didn't love it again, but was interested in continuing the series and kind of seeing where it goes. But it's just like one of those really big world building high fantasy kind of books. Next is the Covenant Trilogy by R.A. Salvatore. R.A. Salvatore is one of my favorite authors, and this is something that he wrote outside of Forgotten Realms. I'll probably have to reread the first book in this series because it's been a long time since I read the first book in it, but if I remember correctly, this is like human sacrifice, but like I said, it's been a while. All I know is I like R.A. Salvatore. Next up is the Dark Artificers. How do you say that word? Hold on. Artifices. The Dark Artificers by Cassandra Clare. This is one of her mini Shadowhunter series books, but it's like the one I skipped over. So I'm kind of going back and reading this. And then her newest Shadowhunter books, I'm also in the middle of that series, but I'm waiting for her to release the next book in the series, which comes out next year. You'll probably see that on my anticipated releases video later this month. After that is another fantasy romance, which is the Bargainer series by Laura Thalassa. I was very interested in the first book and kind of want to know like where the F this one is going. So yeah, I will get to this. I don't think I'll finish the series again in January, but I will definitely be picking up the series and continuing. Another book that I read recently was An Early Death by Charlene Harris, which is the first book in the Gunny Rose trilogy. I think it's a trilogy, but actually it may be like 6 books. I don't remember, but the Gunny Rose series, we'll go with that. And this one was wild and I liked it. It's like a Western, but fantasy and post-apocalyptic. It was weird, but I liked it, but I definitely want to continue. I just haven't gotten a chance to. After that is a comic series, which is Paper Girls. I own all of the available copies. I just slowly, every month or so, read a volume of Paper Girls, savoring it. This is a series that I'm like 3 volumes deep in. I still have no fucking idea what's going on, and I don't even know that I like it. But I'm interested enough to keep reading. After that is a sci-fi, like Disney princess retelling series called Rive City, and each book takes place on a space station, but the main character of each book is like a different fairy tale character. So the first book was like Cinderella, and I think there's 4 other books, and you've got like Jack and the Beanstalk and Captain Hook, things like that. I didn't expect much from the first book, but ended up really liking it, and so I want to continue. I just haven't prioritized it yet. But I think I'll probably do like a 24-hour reading vlog on this series, because the books are all really quick, and I think I can just get through the whole series in 24 hours. Next up is The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. People love this series, and I've read The Raven Boys and nothing else, but I think this will be another 24-hour reading vlog in January where I really think I need to reread The Raven Boys and just read the other 4 books in the series. So if you're a big Raven Cycle fan, that will be coming up in January. Next up is another book that I know I've read, but it's been so long that I kind of forgot it, so I need to reread it. And that's the Earthsinger Chronicles by Elle Penelope. I bought it randomly when it first came out in like, I want to say like 2010, but that could be way off. And read it, and I think I like it because I kept it and kind of forgot about it and never picked up any of the other books in the series. But I still have that first book, and I kind of want to just reread it and refresh my memory on it and then continue on with the series, because I think the whole series is out now. I was reminded of this series by beautifully bookish Bethany, because she was reading it, and I was like, wait, I remember reading that. I should finish that. Next up is another series, a very long series that I read the first book for Goodreads last year, and that was the Legends of the First Empire by Michael Sullivan. I thought the first book was interesting and want to continue. It's just got like 5 books in the series. So I wasn't really in a place to continue reading that, but I really should. Next up is the Witcher series. Again, I've read the first book or short story collection, I guess, in the Witcher series. I want to continue, but there's 6 books in that series available right now, and again, have not prioritized getting that done. Another one that I am going to have to read this year. That's a long ass series that I've read, like, I haven't even read the first book in the series. I read a book in like the middle of the series, and that is Grishaverse by Leigh Bardugo. I read Six of Crows, which is what, like the fourth book in the series? Because I missed like Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin of Rising. I didn't read any of those. I just skipped to Six and Crows, which is like the second duology in the series. But I'm gonna have to read Rule of Wolves for Goodreads, which you'll see that video coming, I think, later this week, maybe next week. My Goodreads Choice Awards challenge for 2022. But I need to read Rule of Wolves, so I need to like go back through and read that whole series. So I will probably again do a 24-hour reading vlog in January where I'm reading the Grishaverse books, or starting to read Grishaverse books at least. Another really, really long series that I have only read the first book in is Cradle by Will White. I also read this last year for Goodreads Choice Fantasy, and it's like fantasy sci-fi, and it was really cool, and I liked it, and I want to continue, but I haven't because I'm garbage, I guess. There's a lot of really long series, and it's like, oh, I want to read that series, but I never prioritize actually reading that series. And the last one I'm going to talk about is my longest series, and that is the Draconian Saga by David Gemmell. And I read this book in 2020 as part of my like reading one book from every single year from 1900 to 2020. And this one was for, I think, 1984, the year I was born. And it was Dress the Barbarian or something like that. It was like this goofy fantasy from the 1980s that I thought was going to be awful. And I ended up loving it. And I bought the whole series and haven't picked up a single book from it. So I'm going to have to put that on my goals for 2022, is to start reading some of the longer series that I have. Just make progress on it. Maybe not finish it in 2022, but make some progress on it. Anyway, that is all of the unfinished series that I have the ability to finish right now on my TBR. If there are any book series that you think I need to start and add to this list and make it even longer, let me know down in the comments below. And if there's any book series that you think I'm missing off of this, talk to me about it in the comments below, and I'll tell you that either I haven't read it, I DNF'd it, or I'm caught up with it. But yeah, that's it for this video. Talk to you in the next one. Bye!